Let's get something straight. You're not here by chance. You are the accidental MVP of a biological Hunger Games that's been running for about 300,000 years. At any point in history, if one of your ancestors tripped wrong, drank bad water, or caught a whiff of the wrong bacteria, poof, you wouldn't exist. So if you've ever thought, wow, I was born at the wrong time, buddy, be glad you weren't born during one of these. These are the worst times in human history to be born, and they almost erased you before you even happened. The Toba supervolcano eruption about 74,000 years ago. Once upon a prehistoric nightmare, a volcano in what's now Indonesia exploded so violently it basically screamed, Control-Alt-Delete humanity. This wasn't just a bad Tuesday. This was a global reset. Ash blanketed the skies, temperatures dropped by 27 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius. Sunlight, gone, crops, hope you like bark soup. A volcanic winter lasted up to 10 years. Global ecosystems crashed, and the human population. It may have dropped to fewer than 3,000 people. That's like the attendance at an indie folk concert on a rainy Tuesday. And in that apocalypse, somewhere, your great-great-great times 5,000 grandma was out there, dodging ash clouds, foraging fungus, and saying, not today, extinction. So, if you've ever made dinner from whatever was left in your fridge and still survived the week, congrats. You're continuing a long tradition of winging it and not dying. Thanks, Grandma. The Black Death, 1347 to 1351. Fast forward to medieval Europe, aka diseased Disneyland, where hygiene was optional and rats ran the streets like tiny plague goobers. In 1347, ships rolled into port carrying cargo, sailors, and a microscopic demon called Yersinia pestis. The Black Death didn't just kill people, it speed-ran the apocalypse. Within 4 years, 75 to 200 million were gone. That's 30 to 60% of Europe wiped out. No TikTok, no medicine, just leeches, incense, and the medieval version of thoughts and prayers. Doctors wore bird masks, people blamed the stars, and the vibe was basically, try not to breathe near anyone, and good luck. Entire towns emptied, family lines disappeared forever. But somehow, not yours. Your ancestors outran one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. No masks, no antibiotics. Just raw immune system and pure stubbornness. Respect. The Spanish flu, 1918 to 1919. World War I ends. Soldiers come home. Everyone hugs. And boom, a flu virus hops on the global train. This wasn't your average sniffle. This was H1N1 with a rage problem. Death toll, 50 to 100 million people, more than World War I itself. It especially loved killing healthy young adults, which is like if a virus specifically hunted gym bros and baristas. This flu was so contagious it infected a third of Earth's population in under a year. No vaccines, no Netflix, just a lot of coughing and fear. And yet, somehow, one of your ancestors just sipped soup and survived. The Mongol invasions during the 13th century. In the 1200s, Genghis Khan and his grandsons looked at the world map and said, mine. The Mongols built the largest land empire in human history using advanced tactics like fast horses, psychological warfare, and mass murder. Death toll, 40 to 60 million. Whole civilizations just deleted. And the Mongols were equal opportunity destroyers. Persia, gone. China, invaded. Eastern Europe, you better run. If your ancestors were anywhere near Central Asia during this time, it's a miracle they didn't get trampled, taxed, or turned into a statistic. But they didn't die. So now you get to complain about Wi-Fi speeds. European colonization of the Americas, 1492 to 1600s. In 1492, Columbus stumbled into the Caribbean, got lost, and somehow kick-started centuries of global pain. He and his European buddies showed up with gifts like guns, steel, and oh yeah, smallpox, measles, and casual genocide. What followed wasn't just colonization. It was an extinction-level event. Entire nations were wiped out before they even knew what hit them. Death toll, between 50 and 100 million indigenous people, the largest demographic collapse in human history. Whole languages vanished, cities gone, cultures erased with zero backups, no cloud storage for 15,000 years of knowledge, just poof. But the trauma didn't stop with disease, because Europe looked around and went, okay, but who's going to work the fields? Cue the transatlantic slave trade, one of the darkest chapters in history. Over 12 million Africans were kidnapped, chained, and shipped to the Americas to build someone else's empire. Half didn't survive the Middle Passage. The ones who did faced slavery, violence, and generations of dehumanization, but still raised children, created culture, and dropped some of the greatest food, music, and inventions the world has ever seen. Let's be clear. If you're Black American, your ancestors didn't just live through this. They endured the unendurable and made something out of the ashes. They passed down language, faith, rhythm, resistance, while being denied humanity. They survived the field, the whip, the auction block, and still made room for joy. So, the fact that you exist, that's not just luck, that's legacy. So, yeah, colonization tried to erase entire civilizations and steal generations. But your ancestors said, not today, Satan. If you're Black, Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous, or descended from these lines, your very existence is an act of defiance, a quiet daily rebellion against everything history tried to bury. You're not just here. You're here because someone refused to be erased. They made it through the collapse. They made you possible. So, yeah, maybe life's hard now, but your bloodline has survived colonization, slavery, genocide, and centuries of systemic nonsense. So, the petty nonsense of today? Child's play. The Ice Age about 20,000 years ago. Imagine being born into a world where summer meant the snow only goes up to your waist, and your birthday wish was, please, just one warm rock. This was the last glacial maximum, the peak of the last ice age. Giant glaciers blanketed entire continents. There were no crops, no cozy cabins, no DoorDash, just miles of ice, mammoths, and misery. Hunting was savage. Farming, not invented yet. You ate what you could catch, or whatever didn't catch you. Every calorie counted, every fire was sacred. And mammoth fat, that was liquid gold, nature's butter, probably spread it on rocks for flavor. There were no down jackets or heated blankets, just animal hides, frostbite, and the daily possibility of freezing to death mid-poop, which, by the way, is a terrible way to go. You want dignity, not icicle cheeks. Yet somehow, some tiny group of stubborn, freezing humans kept crawling forward. Not because life was easy, but because the campfire jokes hit different. Dark, morbid, probably hilarious. And that's your bloodline, by the way. Ice Age comedians with killer timing and even colder feet. Survivors who looked extinction in the eye and said, cool story, Ice, we're not done yet. The An Lushan Rebellion, 755 to 763 CE. China's Tang Dynasty was thriving. Art, science, poetry. Then General An Lushan said, what if I rebelled and broke everything? This led to a civil war so brutal, it killed 13 to 36 million people. And this was before machine guns. The chaos was apocalyptic. Cities fell, fields burned, people starved. Some historians argue the Tang Dynasty never really recovered. And yet, if your ancestors were sipping tea in 8th century China, they either fled, hid, or just brute forced their way through it. Either way, they made sure you could one day overeat at a buffet. World War II, 1939 to 1945. And finally, the war that put the world in World War. World War II was a masterclass in how bad things can get. Nazi genocide, atomic bombs, civilian massacres, famines. Death toll, 70 to 85 million. That's nearly 3% of Earth's population at the time. No one was safe. Whether you were in Europe, Asia, or the Pacific Islands, World War II reached you. And yet somehow your bloodline made it through air raids, hunger, and governments trying to kill each other and everyone else. You owe them more than just a casual thanks. Every time humanity faced extinction, your ancestors survived. They outran volcanoes. They outlived pandemics. They dodged arrows, bullets, ice, and empire collapses. Not because they were lucky, but because someone, at every point in history, said, couldn't be me. So next time you wake up late, spill coffee, or get ghosted on Tinder, remember this. You are the product of 300,000 years of absolute chaos. You are here because they refused to die. So maybe, just maybe, you can survive Mondays. What's the wildest "how am I still alive" moment you've had? Drop it in the comments. Smash that like button if you feel 17% more resilient and 40% more chaotic. And hit subscribe if you're into ideas that stick. Figures that sketch. Ready for your next system update? Tap here and keep playing smart.